And is there anything from staff report? Mr. Walden's not here.
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting?
I was going to move.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Roberts and seconded by Mr.
Lewis?
Lewis.
Was it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is approved. Is there anybody with public input? Mr. Smythe?
Seeing nobody from out there, I'll take a few minutes of your time. We have been trying to move to a more electronic format as a council, and I thought we were making progress, but then on Friday I got 4 separate pieces of mail. A single cancellation in one envelope at 37 cents. Notice here, at least it didn't use an envelope, another 37 cents. Both of these are email items. They never need to be, they never need to hit paper, okay? They should be emailed to everybody involved. A considerable savings. Let's use the electronics that we've got. We've got all the council members with laptops, either our own or a couple of city ones. There's no excuse for this. We have packets here for stuff that should come to us. Half of our city council packet was a big manual that shouldn't have hit the mail. It wasn't needed for this weekend. It just didn't need to be here. It should have been on our desks. The Zoning Board of Appeals stuff wasn't needed for tonight's meeting. It could have been included in the city council packet if somebody had taken the time to give it to the clerk, if it even needs to be printed. There's a good chance that all of us could read these as PDFs. And what I'd like to see the city clerk do is just work with department heads and let's move to as much electronics as we can, and let's cut the ridiculous the postage stuff. There's just no excuse for it. Thank you. That's item number 1. Item number 2 would be to ask that, given that next week's council meeting is likely to be a short one, that we include in it a request that staff provide a report as part of the staff report at council meeting, an update on our goals, so that we can have something from them for our upcoming December caucus meeting, where we will again be discussing how we proceed. We've been in office for 6 months, and I know many of us are chomping at the bit to get some of the things done that we said we would get done in our term. And I know some people in my neighborhood are very concerned about neighborhood preservation and asking where things are at, and they're getting very impatient. I'd like to get going on a number of those issues. So if we can put this in next week's council meeting as a staff report and study session, discuss this, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have one good item.
You have to press the little,
Sorry. One item. This coming Thursday, November 17th, between 6 and 8 o'clock, we have a Windsor Road informational meeting. It will be hosted at the Stone Creek Golf Club. And this is the proposed Windsor Road improvements between High Cross Road and Philo Road. And we've sent notices out to property owners along the area and other interested parties. And as a follow-up, we would have a more formal public hearing for Windsor Road, probably be the end of January or early February. So the first is kind of the unveiling of what is proposed. And again, this is tentative construction 2008. So an informational meeting, Stone Creek Golf Club, 6 to 8. There'll be a formal presentation at 6:30, half hour into the meeting. We'll have a presentation and receive public reaction and comments to the proposed work.
okay, sounds good. Anybody else? Go ahead.
We were notified that this is National Family Week, and it would be appropriate for everybody to think about the importance of family life in their world and how it affects our society in a positive manner. I guess that's the point of family, National Family Week.
Okay, well, we'll go on. Number 5, ordinance number 2005-11-168, an ordinance approving an agreement with the Urbana and Champaign Sanitary District for sewer billing charges. And Ron Eldridge will give us a brief.
As Mr. Bowersox pointed out, there's really 3 ordinances here. The first one approves the agreement with the Sanitary District, and then the other 2 make some changes into our code of ordinances so that the calculation can be done and keep the same amount people are paying as what they would have been paid under the old system. The reason that we had them combined in one ordinance, but the section on fees really requires a different way of publication and a different waiting notice, so it's really probably better to separate those out into 2 ordinances. But a little background information: in 1981, the city began imposing the sewer use tax. This year, a household of 4 people on average will pay about $45 a year for the sewer use tax of the city. Proceeds of this tax are restricted for maintenance and construction of our sanitary and related storm sewers. We have a special fund called Sanitary Sewer Construction Fund, in which we count for those monies. And last year, this tax collected almost $800,000, so it is an important revenue source for the city. Since that time, the city has been basically calculating and mailing out the bills. We've always along asked and felt that it would be better if we could combine it with sanitary districts, avoid confusion with taxpayers. Even after this long period of time, we still have a lot of people that come in and irate. They've got a delinquent notice from the city. They thought they paid their bill, and really what they did was they paid sanitary district bill and became confused. So last year, finally the sanitary district last year came to us and said they had some new software, and they now were willing to do that for us. They had come too late in our process for us to do it, but Champaign did go ahead and take advantage of that, and so they did it last year. The major benefit, I said, is that it will, I think, avoid confusion on the part of the taxpayers. It will also save a lot of administrative time on the city. This is somewhat of a difficult tax to send a bill out for $45. That part's not necessarily that consuming, but the collection efforts is really difficult to do. The only real method we have is to put a lien on someone's property, and then that's time consuming, and the fees, and then the court fees that are added onto that really make it burdensome to those taxpayers. The sanitary district will charge us 1.5%, which is about $12,000 a year to do this for their time. And we calculated that's very close, very close to what it costs us now to send that out. There are a few differences, and some of the reasons why we have to make that change in our ordinance. The sanitary district bills out every 2 months. They do it throughout the year. They take a reading and average that throughout the year, where the city only takes a reading in the winter time, 1 meter reading. First bills for the sanitary district come out in February, and as I said, they go up throughout the June. First bills for the city normally would be sent out in June. One little side benefit that I think will take place from this change is that right now there are some people that are not here during the winter time. So when we take that winter reading, they have virtually no water usage at all, even though they may be here 6 or 7 months of the year, and so they get away without really paying their fair share. And under the sanitary district, because it's billed throughout the year, they take those readings. I think that those people may pay a little bit extra, a few dollars extra, but I think it's probably fair that they do pay a little bit. And we will adopt the standard collection procedures that sanitary district use. No longer will we have to place those court liens and go to court. And sanitary district does have a nice lever in that they can shut the water off. Now, I've been told that the 3 years they've had this lever, they've only had to shut the water off 11 times. So they do work with the individual taxpayers to try to avoid that, and only in those worst possible cases where they're just simply being ignored have they had to take that step. And finally, either city or the sanitary district can terminate the notice by providing 90 days advance notice if it's not working out. So we recommend that those 3 ordinances be approved.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor? Oh, Any
Discussion.
discussion, sorry?
Quick question, Ron. Since this looks like a very efficient way of doing things, and I'm all for cutting down the paperwork that crosses my desk as a homeowner, is there any way we could do the recycling tax with this, too?
That's a good question.
Maybe not this year, but
I don't know if Sanitary District would want to be involved in billing for a recycling tax, if that's what you were hinting at, since, this, I think, is related to the water usage. It falls right in line with them. But certainly, we can ask and even kind of prod and see what we can come up with.
yeah, it just strikes me that, since a lot of people, I think, take advantage of the single payment a year direct from their bank sort of thing, and I know it's real convenient to be able to pay this tax now, the recycling tax online, which is very nice, but at the same time, it might be just as easy to give people an additional option to pay through a single bill that covers all three things instead of two.
I think we'll make a note of that and probably try to get through this first year with the conversion and make sure things are working good, and then perhaps figure a way that maybe we can work that out.
Thank you.
Dennis?
If the sanitary district is going to be collecting the fees for the city, does that mean that the funds that are collected will be coming into the city coffers more often, on a more regular basis than twice a year?
Well, it'll be coming in on a different basis. The Sanitary District, their first bills are going to go out in February. Normally, the city's first bills would go out in June. So we will collect earlier, February instead of June, but it will be spread out over the entire year for the Sanitary District, where right now we get approximately 75% of the entire year's amounts are paid with that first bill that goes out in June.
In one lump, kind of?
In one lump.
And now it's going to be maybe divided into smaller lumps, but it'll be more continuous?
It will be in smaller lumps, but it will be quick. We'll get it quicker. We'll begin to get it in February rather than June.
As a point of clarification, the three ordinances that are going forward for approval, the one has not been assigned yet. Is that my understanding? In terms of the number? So it will be a little out of sequence in an omnibus fashion? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So ordinance number 2005-11-168, and then the schedule of fees, which we don't have a number for, is 14-7. And then ordinance number 2005-11-169. Put them together.
Yeah, I do have some further questions.
Go ahead, Frank.
But yeah, I would like to just move all three together, that we send them to council with a recommendation to approve them. And we can work with the clerk on getting a number for the ordinance afterwards, before next week. My two questions are, first off, it looks like, Ron, we have to notify the public, well, the payers of this tax by December 20, that the billing will change, and we have an obligation to notify them. Have you given any thought to how we do that? Is that an extra mailing that we have to fund with 37-cent stamps, or what's the best way to notify?
I've not really talked with my staff about any ideas they have. I mean, certainly, if we could do anything electronically or through notice, but to make sure that someone knows, the only really true way to do that is by a mailing. If you're not going to go around and place a notice on the door handle, I mean, how else do you really know they see a notice in the paper or any other way? So, I mean, we were just trying to inform people so that they were not confused about not getting a bill and trying,
Yeah, great. I mean, certainly, we could help email constituents. UPTV is a great way to let people know. The target area mailing that goes out, the neighborhood news, but yeah, you'll have to decide what we do to really make sure people know. My second question was, I couldn't tell in the description of how we exchange data with the sanitary district, how we know when people aren't paying, and if we know every month whether there are some delinquent fees, or do we wait till the end of the year?
No, we get a report. Actually, I think the agreement, maybe it's not spelled out real clear, but I think the agreement indicates that at the end of each month, we will get our reports, our collection reports, that tie out the money we've collected, what's delinquent, et cetera.
Okay, and the responsibility to then go to court or put a lien on the property or do whatever it takes to collect is still falls with us, just like always. The enforcement, if they somehow don't pay, is the same as it always has been.
It is still the decision of the city as to what they want to do, but the agreement does specify, certain things that they will automatically do.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smythe?
Yeah, it was my understanding we were sending all three things to council at once as seconder. I guess Brandon brings up an interesting point, is that if we do end up having to do a mailing, we should try to maximize what we get for our 37 cents, okay? So if there's other stuff that we have to go, let's get as much bang for the buck as we can. So if there are other things that other department heads have that need to go out, they should talk to Ron.
I just had one more, clarification for myself. In the discussion about district information sharing responsibilities, item A1 reads the amount billed, paid, and outstanding, and the amount that the district deems uncollectible by reason of bankruptcy or similar reason. And I'm thinking when an individual is not paying his bill, and we don't know what the reason is, maybe for several months or until they're being contacted, and then we have the reason of bankruptcy or similar reason, these people may be financially destitute, but they're still living in a house that requires sewage disposal and sanitary service. Now, you're saying that in the past 11 cases, there have been people who, because of delinquency, have had their water turned off to their house. Would you say this is an unlikely or a very rare experience, or are we going to be facing a lot more decisions concerning water turnoffs at homes where bills are delayed payment?
Well, I think it's very unlikely, and as indicated earlier, I think that Center District, they'd only had to avail themselves of that 11 times, and that's for all the bills they send out over the 3-year period. So we still have, under our ordinances, we still have the option of filing liens and going to court too. So if we want to do that, we can, if that's the best method. Bankruptcies, for the sewer tax, it's difficult. The collection process is difficult. I mean, really, we can't go to court for $45. I mean, we just can't. And so as a result, what happens is someone doesn't pay, they build up usually 3 or 4 years before, with the fees, before they get to the point where, we can actually do something like that. So I think this is going to be better, and I really think in the long run, except for those few cases where if someone just completely ignores and just does not pay and is not really willing to work with the city. We certainly understand when someone comes in and is having a difficult time paying, and when we will work out payment options for them. We will give them grace periods. We'll do virtually everything we can to try to do that. But occasionally you run into someone that just is just not going to pay, whether they can or whether they can't.
Okay, well, I appreciate that comment.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposition? The motion